Hi, this is Sara Levin, the Artful Inker. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today I'm using the Celebrate Sunflowers card to create a beginner clean and simple card, a casual card, and an avid crafting card. So building one design on the next. So let me set the stamp set aside and let's begin. So first I have a piece of scrap paper and a Whisper White note card. I love to use the Whisper White note cards and envelopes in the catalog for beginner or clean and simple cards. They're great for simple stamping. They're great for quick cards. Not as much area to decorate, and they're perfect with smaller designs. So I'm inking the big sunflower stamp in Calypso Coral, and I'm just going to stamp a portion of it over here, not quite the whole thing, on the card, and I'm giving it a good rub and press all the way around. It is a large stamp. You could always use the Stamparatus to stamp this stamp. Okay, let's close up my ink pad. Isn't that gorgeous? I love, love, love the detail in this stamp. So next I've got a piece of Calypso Coral cardstock and my sentiment, and I'm stamping in Memento. And let's take this off. I like to line this up with the grid paper because I've got more of a chance of getting everything straight. Grid paper is our friend. And straight down, and just give it a rub across. And there we go. That's pretty straight. I may take, there's no may about it. I'm going to take my scissors. But before I do that, let's flip it over and see if side number 2 is better. 2 sides to the cardstock. And that's certainly easier than, I'm trying to keep my head above the camera because you don't need to see my head in the way. Okay, that's better. Easier than trimming to straighten things up. And let's bring in some dimensionals. And nobody but you and I will know that we stamped both sides of our sentiment strip. Okay, and bring this in. Okay, and there's a great, easy, clean and simple card using the Celebrate Sunflowers. So move this aside and we'll move on to the casual crafting card. For the second card, I've cut a piece of Whisper White with a stitched rectangle die. And let's grab that piece of scrap paper again and that lovely big sunflower. And I've got Night of Navy ink this time. And just give it a good inking all over. And again, I'm going to come up here in the corner and do a mostly stamp, just not a completely stamp. And I'm just trying to touch all over and make sure I get good contact on this large stamp. Okay, put it out of the way. And we're going to set this off to the side. And I've got a piece of Whisper White scrap paper here and my sentiment. I'm going to use the same sentiment as I have thank you cards that I need to send out to customers. So if you have shopped with me recently, this may be your thank you card that we're making right now. Okay, let's close up the ink. So I'm going to be doing some work with my die cutting machine using the Ornate Flowers in 3D embossing folder and the Tasteful Labels dies to cut out my sentiment. Let me take care of those pieces and we'll be right back and assemble. Okay, so I'm back with the Night of Navy piece embossed with the Ornate Floral 3D embossing folder, and I'm hoping that by shifting this in the light you can see the texture. I'm going to take my Wink of Stella brush and just give this a brush on these outside about inch deep on this, because that's what's going to show in our border. No sense brushing the center and then covering all of that. So just quickly brushing all over. This will highlight the design and kind of bring your eye to it just a little bit. Okay, all the way out to the corner. I'm just checking to see if there are any spots that I missed in this quick brush over. Okay, and then next, while I stepped away, I also used the Tasteful Label dies. This shape has a stitched border, and this shape has a little embossed border, which makes them perfect for layering. So let's bring in our Thick Whisper white base. I've got a piece of Night of Navy here, and I have scored down the center to give it a little embossed look like the edge of the die. And I cut this so that it is that 1/4 inch less wide, like you would if it were a full layer. Having trouble seeing if I've got that straight. Okay, so let's begin to layer our pieces on here. This one is going to be adhered right to the card base because we're leaving just a narrow border, and when you do that you need to glue your pieces together for the best effect. Otherwise you can it makes it really hard to see that narrow border. And then I've got black Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'm using those because I'm adhering to a dark surface. And so when you look at the card from an angle, the black dimensionals just kind of disappear under there to your eye rather than sticking out. Or I should say jumping out at you. Okay, so let's add that. And same thing with this. Oops, having trouble picking it up. I'm going to add black Stampin' Dimensionals to this piece. I love having black dimensionals available. Keeps me from taking a marker and coloring the side of my dimensionals when they are on dark surfaces. Okay, and before I put that down, I have some white polka dot tulle here, and I'm just going to cut a length of that. And angle cut the ends. That angle cut does a couple of things. One, it just makes it look nicer, but the other is an angle cut helps to keep ribbon from fraying. Sometimes a frayed look is what we want, and sometimes not so much. So let's lay that in place. I want this more of a turn here. Nope, I don't. Sorry, it's changed my mind. Okay, and before we stick it down completely, oh, did not get this tail out. I want both tails peeking. Okay, and then to finish, I have some of the holiday rhinestones, and I'm going to use the blue on here. And I'm probably going to reposition that first rhinestone. There we go. Okay, and that's our casual card. So let me clean up from this and we'll be on to our third card. For the third card, we're going to start with the scrap of Whisper White and the large sunflower stamp from Celebrate Sunflowers. And we're going to do the same thing and stamp a partial flower on the corner of this piece. And let me stick these out of the way and move this up a little bit and zoom in, and we're going to color this. I just want to make sure I'm going to stay in frame as I color. So I have my dark and light Night of Navy, the dark and light Seaside Spray, the dark Daffodil Delight, and dark Smoky Slate. So let me grab these. I usually use the brush tip when I'm coloring. That's up to you whether you use the brush tip or the bullet tip. And I put them all in my hand, like my hand looks like a porcupine when I'm ready. And so I'm going to start with the dark Night of Navy down in here. My coloring with the Stampin' Blends is dark to light, and I work a smallish area and then come back and start and blend, and that was the dark Seaside Spray, but what I really wanted was the light Night of Navy. Okay, and then I'm going to go with the light Seaside Spray, and my reason for working a small area is alcohol markers do dry, the ink does, and so if you're working a small area, it'll stay wet long enough for you to get the blend. And if you're working too large an area, it dries out before you can blend, and you end up with more hard lines in your coloring. Okay, so we're just going to do that again. That was dark Night of Navy, light Night of Navy. I do come down into the dark and pull up, which is what helps create the blend. And then I'm going to add the light Seaside Spray. And a little bit of the dark Seaside Spray. And again, you're coming down into this lower area and pulling ink up with it so that it blends. Okay, so I'm going to do that to the rest of the flower and I'll be back. Okay, so our large sunflower is colored, and I'm going to take the bullet tip of the Dark Daffodil Delight, and I'm not really coloring, I'm just pouncing along in here, and that adds just enough color. The little bit of white you see is still good for the accent. And then I'm going to take my dark smoky slate right along the edges here and create just a little more shadow down in here to kind of deepen that idea of you're looking down into the flower. And I'm just coming along the edge here. Kind of makes those petals draw up a little bit. And then to highlight the petals, I'm going to use some light So Saffron on here. And the petals have dried, which is good because we aren't looking to blend that in with the color that was already there. And I'm just going to stroke over this with my light Seaside spray. And it gives these petals just a touch more dimension. And stroke a couple of them over here. And that way all of our petals don't look exactly the same, but they aren't drastically different. And you'll notice that I'm pushing the color down rather than drawing it up. Okay, so that's it. To add a little more dimension to our flower, let me cap these. And then I want to stamp the leaf in Call Me Clover. It's a great summery green. Let's do this so that I can see. I'm going to stamp 2. Not sure that I want to, but that's a just in case. And then I'm going to use Call Me Clover, the light Call Me Clover, and light Granny Apple Green to fill these in. So, and this is just a quick rough color. And then come back with okay. And the same thing on this other leaf. We're going to come in with the Call Me Clover. Now the Call Me Clover ink is retiring on June 3rd, the last I checked. There were still Call Me Clover Stampin' Blends and Call Me Clover ink pad and refill, but they're part of the retiring in colors to make room for the new in colors. And give this just another quick brush. Kind of a highlight back in there. Okay, so those are my leaves. and my flower. And I'm going to use the sunflower dies to cut these out, and then these manly medallion dies to cut out a background, and I'll be right back with pieces and we'll put this card together. One more bit of stamping. I almost forgot my sentiment. We're going to use the same Thanks a Bunch and ink it in Versamark on this Night of Navy. And then sprinkle it with white Stampin' Emboss powder. All of these products are available in my Stampin' Up store. You can find a link to that. Oh, I was a mess, so let's rub that off and go to this other end. I skidded with my stamp, and we don't want to do that. Then you get a blurry image. So let's make sure everything's off there. Stamp again. As I was saying, there's a link to my store in the description below the video. And many of today's products will be available in the new Stampin' Up catalog. If you would like a copy of the catalog and you're in the US, use the link below to request one. Okay, let me pop this in here. And then we're going to go heat emboss this. So this is embossed, and now I just want to use my paper snips and cut it out. And as I turn the paper, not my snips, I am trying to make sure that I leave a navy blue border around this. I don't want to cut right up to my embossing. Let's cut that off, because then it won't pop off my project as much. So cut straight down there and come straight-ish across the bottom. Okay, there's our sentiment. And let me get some of the mini black dimensionals to put on the back here. Oops. And let's see whether this one is going to be just right. Okay. Set that aside. I've got a thick whisper white base, and this piece that I cut with the medallion dies. And I'm just dotting some glue on to the center here. And this strip is going to go on the inside of the card. I'm all about an easy way to do just a little something on the inside of the card. There we go. And then I've got this lovely big medallion piece. And the small strip that we put inside a moment ago was a different die than this piece. We're just dotting glue on here. All the centers. And then just kind of dot, really tiny dot out here along the edge. In fact, I'm going to come back and pick some of that up and move it down to the next. And here I'm just moving. I've barely squeezed any out, and I'm just dragging the slightly gluey tip down the side. So I'm not really squeezing at the same time I'm dragging. Okay. And this is the perfect size for a card front. Let's shift this up just a little bit. Okay. Now, with the sunflower dies, I've cut these lacy white. I've cut out the sunflower that we stamped and colored, 2 of the leaves that we stamped and colored, and then 2 lacy leaves. So let's put this together. I'm going to lay this in the corner and then add some glue to the back of this piece. I'm not going to worry about sticking all the lacy bit down, and then lift this up and slide it in. And the only thing I want to make sure with this lacy bit, since I'm not adhering it, is that it is on the card fully. And same thing here, a little bit of adhesive on the back. And then going to layer these over. And then give that. Okay. So now on the back of this piece, I'm going to put some, I'm going to use the white dimensionals. Something to hold up the center there. Pull these off, and let's hold this in place here. I'm not going to press it down yet. I want to put my leaves in, but I love to use my flower as the guide. So let's adhere the die cut over top of our colored leaf, and you'll notice I'm just adding glue up the center vein. And then I'm going to add 1 dimensional out here on the end of each of these. Oops, the backing right here. And down here. And we'll press everything down in just a moment, as soon as we're sure it's all where we want it to be. Okay. So it looks like this one needs an extra dimensional so that we've got a double stack. Oop, wrong end for the double stack, Sarah. Well, we'll just move it down here and double stack it. So the reason I'm doing the double stack is because part of this is going to overlay the flower, and which means that it will not lay flat. Even is a better word, all the way across if the dimensionals aren't at 2 different heights. Okay. And that way it's all the same level. Okay, so that was our Avid card to go with the casual card and the clean and simple beginner card. Thanks for stopping by today. This was Sara Levin, the Artful Inker of theartfulinker.com. If you've enjoyed these cards, give the video a thumbs up. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel and then click the bell if you'd like to be notified the next time I upload a video. You'll find lots of links in the description below. Have a great day. Go out and do some crafting. Bye.